And now, the general weather around Alaska.
Good afternoon. I'm National Weather Service meteorologist John Cowen with your Alaska Public Forecast. We'll start off taking a look at a few headlines across the state getting into this weekend. We have areas of blowing snow along the Dalton Highway getting into the Brooks Range, as well as portions of the Beaufort Coast, and that'll lead to reduced visibility getting into Saturday. Cold temperatures continue across the northern half of the state throughout the weekend, with a much more active pattern expected for the southern half of the state. We have winter storm warnings in effect for a good portion of the Panhandle for a pretty substantial snowstorm that'll be moving into the area tomorrow. And then an atmospheric river is expected for the Panhandle Sunday into early portions of next week. So taking a look at our hazards map, you can see our winter weather advisories out for the northern half of the state. Again, this is going to be for the blowing snow and the reduced visibility expected to continue through Saturday. We have a special weather statement in effect for 40-mile country, including Eagle, and that's going to be for some pretty cold wind chills. Temperatures are going to be in that minus 20 range across much of this area, but with 10 to 15 mile an hour winds on top of that, we could see wind chills dip down to even minus 50 in some areas. Across the Panhandle, our winter storm warnings are in effect again through Saturday into Sunday for some pretty hefty snow totals, even upwards of a foot in areas such as Juneau, and that'll transition to rain as we get early Sunday throughout the day moving north. That transition to rain is expected. Taking a look at our satellite loop, you can see our low pressure center out in the Gulf of Alaska. This is going to be the system that's responsible for a lot of the moisture that's going to be moving into the Panhandle. So this whole thing will be moving north over the next couple of days. You can see we have high pressure across the interior, helping to keep things pretty pleasant across much of the state. We have a weak trough moving its way across the north slope. That'll dissipate over the next day or so, but we'll bring some snow showers and some lower ceilings into portions of the northeastern Alaska, and then across the Aleutians. Just a generally troughy pattern across this area, just light rain to moderate rain across the area with pretty moderate temperatures in the upper 30s to mid 40s. So minimally impactful for that area. And then taking a look at our forecast getting into tonight, you can see we have our low pressure system here. This warm front is going to be moving across or from south to north across the Panhandle over the coming days. We have a pool of very cold air though out ahead of this warm front, and that's going to take a while to scour out. So even though we do have warm air that'll be moving in aloft, that cold air at the surface is going to keep that snow in place for a little bit longer than we would otherwise expect. So that's going to be responsible for a lot of the heavy snow totals that we're going to get out of this storm. And then, of course, getting into tonight, like we said, we have snow showers moving into the southern portions of the Panhandle. That high pressure really keeping things pretty cold for the northern portions of the Panhandle and helping to reinforce that cold air at the surface. And then reinforcing the cold air as well across the northern half of the state. Getting into Saturday, snow now spreads across much of the Panhandle. Heavy snow expected again for the northern portions of the Panhandle, starting to transition to rain late in the day on Saturday. And then as we get into Sunday, transitioning to rain through the central Panhandle, getting into the northern parts. Higher elevations in the northern Panhandle are going to hang on to that snow substantially longer than the rest of the area. But generally, as we look across the Gulf of Alaska area, much of the immediate coastline dealing with some mixed wintry precipitation and moderate temperatures. But as we get farther inland, things cool off really fast, and weather is expected, again, to be pretty pleasant across much of the northern half of the state. Let's take a look at our temperatures. You can see seasonably cold temperatures expected for Saturday morning across the interior, minus teens to minus 20s for most areas, even getting into the minus 30s for 40-mile country area. Looking at the Panhandle, again, pretty cold for this time of year for the northern portions of the Panhandle, looking at single digits to teens, and even below freezing weather across the southern Panhandle and much of the Gulf Coast as well. Temperatures in the Aleutians, generally from the central and western Aleutians, we're looking at temperatures in the upper 30s to low 40s, and that's not really going to change too much over the next couple of days. However, as we get into Saturday afternoon, you can see things really starting to warm up across the southern Panhandle, temperatures getting into the 40s even, with still some cold temperatures across the northern portions of the Panhandle, and then single digits below zero is what we're expecting for much of the interior. Getting into Sunday morning, you can see the difference now. Temperatures bottoming out above freezing for portions of the southern Panhandle, again with that warm air slowly moving north. Interior, again, looking at minus teens to minus 20s for broad swath of the interior. Getting into Sunday afternoon, temperatures warming up into the single digits or single digits either side of zero for much of the interior. And then the Panhandle, looking at temperatures in the mid to even upper 40s across the southern Panhandle. So really warm air moving into this area. Temperatures just below freezing for the northern portions of the Panhandle. So again, hanging onto the snow for the northern areas, but already transitioned to rain over the central and southern half. Across the immediate coastline of the Gulf of Alaska, you can expect temperatures in the upper 30s to even near 40 as much more mild air moves into the area. And then looking at our temperature outlook in the 6 to 10 day outlook, you can see that warm air has continued to move up, much warmer than average temperatures expected for much of the southeastern quadrant of the state. It's really just the far northwestern portions of the state that are expected to be somewhat below normal, but generally warmer weather expected. Taking a look at our precipitation outlook, you can see much wetter than average conditions expected again across the same areas. And that, as you might expect, that'll be with that front that's moving across the region, bringing the warm air as well as the precipitation with it. And that'll wrap up our public weather forecast. I'm meteorologist John Cowen.